I'm going to walk through the Logan 860 Platinum Edge Mat Cutter the way most of us approach a new tool buy, asking the same questions we ask ourselves before we spend money. Will it actually make my job easier, or will I end up with a pricey piece of equipment that sits idle? Will the extra features translate into real-world time savings, or are they just marketing fluff? And most importantly, does it give me enough value for the cost compared with the other cutters on the market? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. If you're the kind of framer who spends hours measuring, aligning, and then slicing mats by hand, you already know the pain points. One miscut and you have to start over, which not only wastes material, but also adds frustration to a job that's supposed to be precise. For hobbyists who dabble in matting a few times a month, the temptation is to grab the cheapest benchtop cutter you can find, but that often means dealing with uneven cuts or a blade that stalls on thicker stock. Professionals, on the other hand, need a machine that can handle 4-ply or even 8-ply mat board without bogging down, and they need it to keep cutting consistently throughout a busy day. The Logan 860 is positioned squarely in that professional tier, promising super smooth cutting and a set of adjustments that sound like they're meant to eliminate the guesswork. First off, the super smooth cutting claim isn't just a buzz phrase. The cutter uses Logan's proprietary blade, Model 267, which is engineered for a clean, continuous slice through both thin and thick mat board. In practice, that means when you set the blade depth for an 8-ply board and push the board through, you get a clean edge without the jagged chatter that many cheaper cutters produce. The smoothness isn't just about aesthetics. A clean cut reduces the need for sanding or trimming later, which saves both time and material, especially when you're working with expensive museum-grade matting. The microadjustable moving magnetic stop and mat guide are the parts of the machine that most directly affect day-to-day usability. The magnetic stop lets you set a precise stopping point for each cut, and because it's microadjustable, you can dial it in to fractions of an inch. In a real studio environment, that translates to being able to set up a repeat cut pattern for a series of frames, and then let the cutter do the work without remeasuring after each pass. The mat guide, also magnetic, holds the board in place while you push it through, which helps keep the cut line straight even if the board is a little warped. I've seen a few videos where people try to compensate for warping by manually guiding the board, and the result is often a slightly off-center cut. The built-in guide on the Logan 860 removes that variable. One practical strength that stands out is the cutter's capacity for both 4-ply and 8-ply mat board. Not every benchtop cutter can handle 8-ply without a noticeable slowdown. With the 860, the motor maintains a steady pace, so you're not left waiting for the blade to catch up after each thick cut. That matters when you're on a deadline or when you have a large order of custom mats to fulfill. The quick change blade system also speeds things up. You can swap the Logan 267 blade in under a minute, and the tool locks it firmly in place, which reduces downtime. However, the machine isn't without trade-offs. The first thing I noticed is its footprint. At 60 inches wide, the cutter takes up a substantial portion of a standard workbench, and you need a fairly sturdy surface to keep it from vibrating. If you're a small shop owner or a hobbyist working out of a garage, you'll need to carve out dedicated space for it. That size also means the cutter isn't exactly portable. You can't easily roll it from one job site to another. It's designed to be a stationary workhorse, which is fine for a permanent studio, but a limitation for anyone who needs mobility. The price point reflects that professional focus. It's definitely higher than entry-level cutters that hobbyists might start with, and the cost can feel steep if you only need to cut a few mats a month. The value proposition really shows up when you consider the hidden costs of imprecise cuts, wasted board, extra labor, and potentially unhappy clients. If those hidden costs are a regular part of your workflow, the Logan 860 can actually pay for itself after a handful of projects. If you're only cutting mats occasionally, you may find the investment harder to justify. Another practical consideration is maintenance. The blade life on a Logan 267 is respectable, but because you're likely cutting thicker boards more often, you'll need to replace the blade at a regular interval. The cutter doesn't have an automatic blade wear indicator, so you have to keep an eye on the cut quality yourself. That's not a major drawback, but it does add a small ongoing expense that you should factor into the total cost of ownership. So